Hi, I'm Chris Blackburn.
Hi, I'm Rob Hawks.
And this is Training Tuesday, 30 minutes every week of complimentary practical sales training.
Yep, we are live, I believe. We are up and running and good to go. So, welcome everybody to Training Tuesdays. It is Tuesday, the 16th of June, 2020. It's 5 p.m. on new time.
In Queensland.
In Queensland. A bit of feedback on the time, guys. If you just want to pop in the chat, whether you like the new time, whether you don't like the time, we're always open to just a bit of feedback. But Chris, what are we doing today?
So today we're covering the final step of a professional rapport building series that we've been running through as well. So over the last few weeks, again, people taking notes, pen handy, write down the acronym. Rob, if you can pop that in the chat, that would be awesome. So what we've been covering is BBETS. That stands for breaking the mold, big picture questions, effective questions and efficient questions, the art of tonality, how to sell through a third or a first party story. And this week we're going to be covering specific questions. So once we've from the top of asking a big picture question, for example, what do you like? We really want to get to the root cause. So today we're going to go through specific questioning.
Specific questions. So I just popped it in the chat. Next week, have you spoken about next week? Sorry.
I haven't.
No? Okay. So next week we are going to be doing a summary. So if you missed Training Tuesdays for any reason over the course of the last 6 weeks or so, then we're actually going to be doing a summary. We're actually going to be going through the whole thing, basically picking our two or four aspects that are going to be the main ones for you guys. So the week after that, we're going to be finishing off the rapport building series on how to build rapport socially. So we've done a professional series, and then we're going to be finishing up with a summary next week. And then the week after, the last series or the last session in June, we're going to be doing how to build rapport in a social setting. So we're going to be covering the four main aspects. That'll really help with everyday conversation, building rapport with those in and around you, people in your social setting, etc. But as Chris highlighted, today is an interactive session. So again, we want you guys to get involved in the chat, whether you're on live on Facebook or whether you are, hi Mandy, hi Nick, welcome to those who are watching on Facebook, good to see you guys. Please make sure that you get involved in the chat. As Chris said, get your water, get your pad and pens ready. The more that you give us, the more questions you ask, the more interactive this is, the better an experience it is for everybody. So but as Chris said, we are going to dive straight into a quick, really quick overview of the last few weeks as a bit of a recap, and then obviously finish up with that series. But remember to like, share, and subscribe on Facebook as well. I always forget to say that. So Chris, do you want to start us off?
That's it. I guess it's understanding the what, though, firstly. It's always good to run into the practical hows and everything like that. But obviously for us and everyone out there, specific questions allows you to, really cut to the core of the customer's needs. I think that's the importance of why we ask them sometimes tough questions, depending when you're asking the specific. You can do it right at the start of an interaction, right towards the end of that as well. But the specific questions, not everybody likes to ask the questions. So I think understanding the importance of doing it, hopefully we can sort of cover that over the first few minutes and then start getting in some practicals of what kind of questions, how to ask them, and maybe more importantly, where to ask them as well. So I think specific questions really gets to the core and digs deep into what the customer or potential prospect is looking for from what you offer as well.
Yeah, I would second that. I think digging deeper, a lot of people will say to us, well, what are your key takeaways? What are your main things that you would suggest that when you do training, when you're looking to become a better salesperson, what are the number one tips? I think ultimately, as always, if you can truly understand somebody's needs, wants, desires, goals, and really have an ability to be able to dig deeper and find out the root cause of a why or a reason to do something, you'll find that you'll be a far more effective salesperson. In fact, you'll be just far more you have a far more ability to be able to relate to people. You'll be able to build better relationships when you really feel like you walk away from an interaction and they go, God, geez, that's such a nice guy. It's mainly because if you're able to ask them, or girl, you're able to ask them better questions, more effective questions, big picture effective, and then finally specific, you can really hammer home. And I always like to do a bit of a dictionary definition. I like to figure out, sorry, I just got thrown off. Jackson just opened the door and it scared me. Remember, I'm used to doing this on my own. The last 2 months I've been doing it with nobody in the office. But yeah, being
away after 1 week.
That's right. Yeah, get out. So yeah, the dictionary would define specific. Actually, I just put the word specific in, and it's clearly defined or identified. So I'll say that again: clearly defined or identified. So can you clearly define or identify your needs, wants, desires, goals? Chris, I don't know if you want to share a little bit more about clearly identifying that.
Yeah, I think specific questions as well, when you do ask them, it actually gives you concrete answers. I feel like if you're asking them tough questions, not only will it naturally build more trust if somebody's willing to give you them information or the answers that you're looking for, but I feel like once you've followed the process that we've obviously been covering over the last few weeks, and maybe people that have got the academy, jump back in and re-listen to them, or download the audio section to listen as they're on the go. But I feel like, yeah, once you've got that, it really gives you the definitive answer that you need in order to present to that product. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Jackson asked me earlier today when we were doing a little social media thing about, top tip. And I talked about silence, not over talking. There's a really key element that Chris, you mentioned about the 1, 2, 3 talk, actually taking a second to just listen, see whether there's a response. When you ask a question, just really, really wait for the answer. It sounds silly, but wait a little bit longer once they've given the answer, just in case they do give you something that you may have missed. I was so bad for it. I don't know about you, Chris, but of over talking. We do it to each other all the time. That's because we're excited about.
I've done that today. I just have now as well. No, I did that today, and there's nothing worse for me. And you've got to be open and honest. Everybody makes mistakes, and everybody does it. But I was on the phone with a potential prospect today, and unfortunately, I over talked as well. And he was like, "No, you go." And once you get that line, and everybody's had it, and it always happens, don't get me wrong, you get excited and there's something you want to say, but that time you cut the person off and they say, no, you carry on. And it's kind of like, yeah, I've just stopped his train of thought. So unfortunately, it happens, and I feel like it is very, very important to do that.
Well, also the reason behind it, if we dig a little bit deeper in regards to why it's important and how that's related to specific questions, is every time that you overtalk someone, their responses will be less and less, and they'll be more guarded every time. So every time that, okay, no, you go. It's like, does this person really care about the answers that I'm giving? Do they really care about me? So the more that you allow that opportunity for them to answer and get their full opinion out, they're actually more likely to share more information. You should be able to ask 2, 3, maybe 4 questions and just sit back and let the individual really run with it. And why, if you look at the 6 stages of rapport building, there is a reason why we actually have a large portion of those as questions: big picture, effective questions, and specific questions. So 50% of our professional rapport building is based around asking questions. It's not on on saying the most or anything like that. It's asking a simple question: what are you looking to achieve? Asking an effective question, something that gets them thinking, a secondary question, and then asking a specific question. So and actually listening and relating and understanding their perspective, and then offering your opinion afterwards. So yeah, that's maybe going maybe a bit overboard, maybe not on the importance of it. Yeah. But if we don't recognize why, then what's the point of learning how?
And I guess to add on the back of that, really important, I guess, when we're asking specific questions is where we ask these questions in a sales process as well. So for people taking notes, maybe a really quick tip around recapping. So after we've done our consult, needs analysis, awareness, whatever we're calling the consultation phase, where we're understanding what the customer is looking for, what I call bridging the gap before we present is actually recapping back to the customer what they've stated with their specific questions, again, to relate back what we're talking about today. And what I'd look to do is affirm, so get an affirmation from a customer around 3 to 5 times before I run into a presentation. So as an example, you could say, just before we start looking at a couple of options that may be available as well, I just want to make sure I've picked everything up that we've spoken about today. So can I just confirm, Rob, you've been in business for about 5 years now, is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. And currently you're converting around 20%?
Yep.
Yeah, and the average lead price for yourself is about $100. So you're leaving about $5,000 on the table a month. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Perfect. So based around that, then that's where I'd transition into present. Obviously, it depends on the intelligence that you've gathered from the client, but getting the 3 to 5 yeses and going back to the 1, 2, 3 talk where we allow the pause to come in is actually asking that question and recapping. I know that goes off the sort of topic, but that just shows the importance. If you ask the right specific question, you can use that in your recap before presenting.
Yeah. I think the where you use them will come also down to the asking primary, secondary, and tertiary level questions. So actually, like we said, digging a bit deeper in that. So where you've gathered that information to then kind of bring those things back. So obviously in your example there would have been after asking me those questions.
Correct.
So actually maybe just jumping into a bit of an example there. You use the example of my average transaction value, asking them how much is your average transaction. Yeah. I mean, that's very specific, and you can then use that information. Let's use ISR as an example. We're sales trainers, so we would suggest that we can get you a return on your investment, $3,000 to get involved in the academy at the exclusive, starting from $1,500, for example. Who knows, maybe on Friday end of financial year, what's going to happen? But anyway, if I know what the average transaction of somebody's business is, let's say, for sales training, $2,500, $3,000, Mandy with water, whatever it might be, and actually finding out exactly what it is. If it's $20,000, whatever it might be, I can then customize my presentation to suggest that, so all we need to do is show you one sale and you would have made your investment back. But I can't do that if I haven't asked a specific question. Well, what's your average transaction? I need that intelligence to be able to customize my presentation.
Yeah, and I guess the reason we do specific questions last in the process of professional rapport building, you need to kind of earn the right and the trust in able to actually ask them particular questions. You know, if Rob was running his company and I said, and what's your turnover, mate? How much money do you make? He'd be like, what? But if I've built rapport with him, I've started with, you know, what's your average transaction sale? How many leads do you get into the business on a week? What would you say your conversion rate is? And he says to me, 20%, my average transaction's $1,000 and we get X amount of leads coming in the business. Now I can work out the turnover and the money that they make as a company, but I have to follow the right order to ask the questions to retrieve the information that I'm looking for, if that kind of makes sense.
So you wouldn't go straight into asking a specific question like, what's your current budget for this, without maybe asking a couple of questions first?
Correct. I feel like we ask the specific questions to get the right and the relevant information. And let's be honest, over the years, if you ask somebody the specific question straight from the get-go, are you going to get the real answer? I don't know. I'm not too sure.
Well, yeah, probably not. I think, I mean, you'd probably get an indication of the real answer, but you might not get it. I mean, we would do that when we're asking people. I mean, for those of you who are clients of ours, we most likely would have asked you, if you're part of the academy, of the three, like say, for example, you've got your value, so you just get the content, you've got your premium content and webinars, and then you've got your exclusive content, webinars, and coaching. Of those three, which do you think you'd be leaning towards and why? Now, obviously, I would do that asking the why because I want a guided discovery aspect to it, something we've not actually touched on, Chris. Really powerful tool of of your prospects essentially selling themselves. But maybe just in the chat, I'd like a little bit of a poll here or on Facebook. We've got the Kusiks in there. We've got a bit of a family reunion going on. We've got Nick and David saying hello to each other in there. Just put in there, can you remember if we asked you which of the options were you leaning towards? Because that's a specific question. Asking you which version are you suggesting or leaning towards is specific. I'm asking you to tell me which one do you think you're going to do. So yeah, maybe just pop in the chat. For those of you who came on board a year ago, that wouldn't apply because we've changed our packaging a little bit then. But those of you who are new on board, yeah, we would have asked you and said, which one do you think is best? So if you have options, sounds simple, but rather than telling them, saying, I think this one is best for you, perhaps getting them to suggest which one they're leaning towards, get them to then sell themselves on the idea of why, by saying, okay, and why did you, or how did you come to that conclusion? If you genuinely feel that maybe another package or something else might suit, then you could say, well, I actually believe that this would be best for you. So, you know, keep that in mind. But yeah, that would be an example of a specific question, would be based on the packages I've presented, which do you believe suits you best?
And I guess that then sells their outcome, not yours.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I guess unpack that. What do you mean by that? If I mean, I know what you mean by that, but what do you mean by that?
If you're providing options and you ask the customer which one they prefer and they pick the one that they prefer, that's them choosing that. And I always say that, you know, based on the limited bit of information that we've shared so far today, which one of the three would you be more leaning towards? And not the one that sounds the best, but which one do you feel is going to give you the most amount of value?
Yeah.
Okay. The premium. Okay. And any particular reason why?
Yeah. So you do that anyway. You do that quite a lot. I hear you saying it all the time. That any particular reason why? So that's guided discovery, right? They're selling themselves on the option. I guess that another thing around if you don't, then another guided discovery question, again specific, is talking about the factors or the things that are most important to them. Again, we get drawn into sometimes talking about our favorite thing, you know, our favorite thing of the academy, what I like, but actually getting them to tell you what theirs is. So actually asking them, of all of the factors we've spoken about, what's most important to you? So what's most important to you, getting them to say, well, for me, it's the fact that I can do it 24/7, 365. Okay, great. Well, why is that important? And again, just digging deeper. But like Chris suggested earlier, you can't keep asking those why questions early on, I don't believe anyway, unless you've built a little bit more maybe social rapport or again, given to take. My favorite, reciprocity, asking, you know, answering the question that you asked before. But I think, yeah, that's important to understand what's important to them.
For sure.
And from a chat perspective, guys, if you just want to put in here, you know, maybe, okay, have you used these questions before? Who inside of the training are actually using these specific questions? Perhaps maybe you've asked these and not understood that they are specific questions. It'd be good to get a bit of an interaction, maybe, you know, in your business, maybe suggest, okay, when would I use them, or what specific questions could I use? Are you asking, maybe be honest, are we asking ourselves, or asking our clients, I should say, what's in their budget? Are we getting that from them? I know that a lot of people will find that difficult because we believe that if we ask them that question, sometimes Ryan has said, I'm not asking you to lie to me now, because actually when we ask that question, say, how much have you got? We actually fear that question. Why do consumers fear that, Chris? Why would, if you ask me how much have I got set aside, why do salespeople fear asking that question based on the answer I'm going to give?
Because you don't retrieve the correct answer. You know, if I'm going to look at a new car and I want to buy a car for 20 grand and I'm going with the missus and somebody says, what's your budget? I'm going to say 10. Yeah.
Even though you've got
20, because you've got room to play with. So I feel like the way that you ask that question is again, really, really powerful. It's like you said, building reciprocity and asking the question and bringing the white elephant up in the room. You know, I'm not going to ask you budget because, you know, I don't want you to lie to me, but just so we don't keep going back and forth. And then you can obviously run into the sort of language pattern around that. And you get the real answer. And I used that yesterday and it got the real answer. And we've had a pleasure to now bring somebody onto the academy because I asked the right question. I've qualified the customer. I asked the budget, and now she's having an opportunity to grow her new sales role with our business. So I feel like the answering the specific questions is important if you feel like you can help that end person with what you offer.
Yeah. Well, that's our whole understanding of integrity-based sales, right? It's if you believe genuinely that you can help somebody, then it's your duty and obligation. It's your right to ask further questions to hammer home. We've actually got a couple of points here in the chat here. So Sam, hey Sam, you said definitely need to focus on these. Need to be more mindful of defining big versus specific. Absolutely. I guess just on that, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago about big picture questions. I think thinking the relativity to a big picture question can be associated with anything. You know, like, what do you like? What do you dislike? We've gone through that before. Being specific is really like, well, how soon are you looking to incorporate this arrangement? How soon? Or it gets a specific answer: tomorrow, today, yesterday.
Get very granular.
Yeah, we're digging deeper. We might ask a big picture like, yeah, okay, well, what have you enjoyed about your so Sam's in the medical industry and you know, dealing with yeah, medical equipment, for example. So it'd be like, okay, well, what equipment, what have you liked about the equipment that you've seen from us? Big picture. What have you liked? What have you disliked? Okay, and how long has this been a challenge for you? That would be more specific, because I'm asking for a specific response. I want to know, okay, 3 years, wow. So what in the 3 years have you done to solve this problem? So what have you actually done? So actually digging much deeper, not skirting along the surface of big picture, big picture, big picture. So Chris, I mean, how, you know, what industry are you in?
Yeah.
No, go on.
Electrician.
No, we just did it then. I got even in a role play. No, go on, you go. Electrician. So, okay, you've given me so my next question to be, okay, well, how long have you been an electrician for?
4 years.
4 years, perfect. You enjoy it?
Pays the bills.
Pays the bills, okay. And okay, so just, you know, we're role playing there, but, you know, actually just staying along the line of, okay, I want to dig a bit deeper. And what prompted you to reach out? What do you know about us? What research have you done? And so on and so forth.
And I guess a real quick thing around that as well, Rob, like from a timing perspective of specific questions, it's like anything that we do with acronym, whether it's pitch or Rio, whatever we sort of cover. As much as you follow it in order, it still is a very important thing to time it. I wouldn't just go bang, bang, bang. What I'd sometimes do is get the big picture question, move across, ask another big picture question, move on, ask another one. And then I could say, you did say a few minutes ago something that you really liked about your industry was X, Y, and Z. What would you say the main reason for that is? And then I'd go back a couple of steps. You know, it's like the analogy when you're playing pool, you're always that 2 shots ahead. And it's the same when you're asking questions. And that's not from a manipulative way. That's just the way that we ask questions to retrieve the information. Because if it's that questionnaire type of thing where it's just, we covered it obviously the other week, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Whereas if you're relating to the customer, moving across, hopefully this is making sense, and then going back and then recovering some of the information that you've found, you may find that you get more specific answers coming from the client.
Yeah, I think we've obviously got different styles. Someone said the other day they like it when we disagree. I don't know whether they want us to have a bit of a Barney on here, but I guess for me, yeah, I suppose I guess what I was suggesting was that we wouldn't necessarily only ask big picture questions. Like you'll only ever get surface level information, and then, but I guess what you're suggesting is that you might want to then dig deeper on it and then bring it back and say, well, earlier you suggested. So yeah, I guess it depends on
agree to disagree.
How comfortable you are. Yeah, maybe we will. No, it's good. It's good. We're different. There are going to be people that are watching here that don't agree with what we're saying, and it's good to bring that out.
Everybody sells in a different way, and everybody buys in a different way. You've just got to be authentic and organic with the way that you do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we've got one from Jared here. So I ask a lot of questions, but I'm understanding if they are an effective question secondary and specific is something I'm still learning. Oh, that wasn't really a question, that was a statement. And then we've got, when we have the bridging questions gone wrong, why? Jesse, do you just want to unpack that for me? I know what you mean about when we're asking the bridging between the next point, but do you mean when have the bridge? Sorry, I've reread your question here. When have the bridging questions gone wrong? It's because words with no tone.
Yeah.
Why? Okay, yeah. So asking a why question. I think for me, the only reason why I would ask them why is getting the guided discovery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan personally. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm a big fan of getting my prospect, my client, especially when I'm coaching,
Mm-hmm.
getting them to come to the conclusion themselves, getting to that point where they're answering their own problem. Because I shared the other day about we answer questions in self. We have our own internal dialogue that we wrestle with the reasons why. So if I'm asking those internal, we're controlling that internal dialogue where, I can't control your mind. I'm not a Jedi, but I can at least control the questions you're asking themselves. That's why we would say, how soon are you looking to incorporate that agreement? Because it brings it to a future tense. So asking why would be the reason behind that. But
would you also say, Rob, as well, it shows that the customer's listened?
Yes.
If they say why. So like, for example, if you get an objection on the end, send it on an email, I need to speak with my partner, I know this is sort of going to the objections, and you sort of say, yeah, that's no problem whatsoever, just so I can make sure we've gone through everything. What would you say the 2 or 3 things is that the reason you want the email? What would you say the 2 or 3 main points are that you feel is going to offer you value? And if the customer can't repeat any of that, the likelihood they may not have listened to anything that you've said. Yeah. Whereas if they repeat back, they may have taken notes, or they may have just retained the content.
And that comes back to your point earlier about recapping, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to go over the things, I guess also then asking them, what have you taken from this? What do you think it's going to help you with? Mm-hmm. How do you think it's going to benefit you? Again, maybe not asking them in that specific order, watching the tone in which you deliver it in. We all understand that. Again, we covered that a couple of weeks back. The most powerful way of delivering the language pattern you've got. So really ensuring that you're asking in the right tone. For those of you who are in the academy, feel free to go back and watch that, because it'll really change the way. Yes, we want to get the wording right, but we also want to make sure that we're asking in the right tone. So, hopefully that will unpack it a little bit more, because we're running out of time. But I've got one of my favorite specific questions. I've got one more favorite. You're going to love it. It's my favorite specific question. But have you got something that you want to add or share at the end of this, Chris, before I share my favorite?
Yeah, you've got me on the edge of the seat, mate. I want to hear your question.
You want to hear my question? That was a little game that we were talking about earlier. No, games, we're dead serious. So my favorite question that you can ask anybody is, have I asked about every detail that's important to you? So have I asked about every detail that is important to you? Mm-hmm. The reason why, and I'll go that, Chris, why do you think that's my favorite question? Let's go a bit of guided discovery.
Just to make sure that you've actually asked everything that's important to the customer. I asked something very, very similar. Just before we do look at options available, is there anything else that is important to you that may not have understood so far today?
Easy. I think that is super, super practical, very, very simple, and very, very powerful. I think
because the amount of times on that when you say, no, you've covered everything, but I think the only other thing, you will retrieve more information. Go and try it tomorrow.
Especially if you get that objection, means you haven't built enough value, which means you haven't covered everything that they want. So, so there you go. We've got one final question to have. We're going to see if we can answer it in 60 seconds. What are your thoughts on dress code, ties, colour?
Is that a dig?
Mate, I reckon polo shirts are the go. Look, I think it depends on the individual. It depends on the organisation you're going to. I think it's very, very relevant to who you're going to, corporate, what you know about the individual. You can't go wrong with a shirt and tie. I believe. I also think, you know, we're in a bit more of a casual setting at the moment. So perhaps, yeah, Herv, there's some bits in the academy. Is Herv in the academy? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Herv, I think 100%. I think it builds rapport because naturally that sets the winning first impression. As Rob said, you know, I think if you shouldn't change who you are maybe, but I feel like, yeah, I think that the shirt, the tie and everything like that, if you're going to a face-to-face meeting, maybe me and Rob can take something from this webinar. And
Ryan will have that question. Did he pay you
this Tuesday? Yeah, there you go. So, but no, I feel like it can make a winning first impression 100% on how people look from their appearance.
I mean, ask Ryan for some fashion tips. He'll tell you. He'll wear the sharpest suit around. So, guys, that's it for Building Rapport. Up to the summary. Next week, we're going to be doing, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about a summary. We're going to basically just really quickly go through the 6 stages again. And then on the following week, which is going to be the 22nd, I believe, the end of the month, sorry. So the last Tuesday of June, we're going to be doing forward. So we're going to be doing the 4-step process to building rapport socially. And then we've got a new series happening in July. As I said, guys, if you want to keep your eyes peeled for the end of financial year, maybe something is going to be exciting. I don't know. Keep your eyes peeled from that. And as always, please remember to like and share and subscribe. Tell your friends and subscribe next week. But Chris, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, just the last thing from me, everyone inside the academy, just remember this Thursday, 4 o'clock Queensland time, live 1-hour session with Ryan Tuckwood. If there is one to watch, in my opinion, this is the one, the top 10 mistakes in sales. If you can find an hour to listen to that, there is going to be nuggets of gold throughout the whole session. So that's going to be this Thursday at 4 p.m. But apart from that, thank you for everybody taking more time out of your week to listen to myself and Rob. Any questions, please feel free to reach us on LinkedIn, connect to us, call the office, send a pigeon, whatever you need to do. But yeah, apart from that, thank you for taking the time out.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Enjoy your evening.